Well, welcome to the Friday Bubble. It's been a few months since we've done one of these videos, and I thought what better way to start than a brand new release. Pol Roger came out with their rosé actually this very week. I was lucky to preview it a couple of weeks ago at the Champagne Academy tasting, but today we're going to look at this rosé from 2018. I don't think many people have tried 2018s yet, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the vintage. It was another one of these quite warm years, so it was quite wet in the winter. Bud break and flowering was actually relatively early. All happened by the end of May. And then during the summer, it was pretty warm. So July was very warm, August was also very warm. But the good thing was there was very little moisture around. So harvest started at the end of the third week of August, another early year, and carried on till early September. So a good year. One of the things I've started to find with the 2018s is they're quite fruit forward. So you have this really rather joyous fruit, and I'll be fascinated to see whether the rosé is showing like that today. It's quite an important year for Pol Roger. It's their 175th anniversary. And way back in 1869, Pol Roger, who started the company, was obviously the first generation. Right now, where we are today, we're in the fifth generation. Hubert de Billy is the family member. Him and his three sisters are the core of the management. And the sixth generation has just come into the business. So very much a family-owned business, just over 90 hectares. And they're based in Epinay. Anybody who's walked up the Avenue de Champagne will have seen Pol Roger a little bit further up on the right. A magnificent house. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the champagne. I'm going to just give you a little bit more of history, because I think it's quite fascinating with Pol Roger. Back in 1985, Christian de Billy, who is Hubert's father, he was in charge of the company at that point, and he brought in a new winemaker. I always love it when this happens. A lovely chill bottle has gone everywhere. So Christian de Billy was looking for a new winemaker back in 1985. He found James Coffinet, who was actually at a rival's champagne house at the time. One of the reasons that I think he was perhaps interested in James as a winemaker is he was practicing at this other house what they call double debordage, which is the double cold settling of the still of the wine just after it's pressed. So when the wine comes off the press, there's obviously a little bit of solid in the liquid. If you cool it down, traditionally a house would cool it down and take it off the sediment after, say, two days settling. James at the time believed that it was really important to do a second settling, cold settling that is, and he was the one who brought that to Pol Roger back in 1985. Why is that important, I hear you say? And actually the only reason that it is important, and Pol Roger believe that it helps very much with what they call the aromatics, the lightness and delicacy and purity of fruit. So that's one of the things that to them is very, very important. And that started obviously many, many years ago. The winemaker today, actually, interestingly enough, started his time at Pol Roger back at the beginning of 2018. He joined in April 2018, Damien Cambrai, and so he started and just was able to make this very wine. He was lucky. Now, 2018 as a vintage followed the very tricky vintage of 2017. 2017 was pretty okay for Chardonnay. For Pinot Noir and Meunier, there was a lot of rot. It was very wet and a very difficult year. So when 2018 came along, the harvest quantities were just 12,300 kilos, and a lot of the houses were able to get rid of a lot of the 2017s that they had in their cellar that they didn't particularly like, because 2018 was a warm harvest, but also a very bountiful harvest. So it was a very good way to refresh reserve wines. And also we see what we see here, which is hopefully rather delicious fruity wines. I'm going to have a little taste. So, Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. This is predominantly more Pinot, so 65% Pinot and 35% Chardonnay. Of that, the way this rosé is made, there's obviously two main ways rosés are made. You can either macerate the red grapes for a little bit of time to get the colour, or you can make your red wine and add it to the blend. So Pol Roger Rosé is made by the addition of a little bit of red wine. In this case, 15% of the 65 is made as red wine. And the reason, it's a really, I suppose, a good point just flashed through my head, is why is rosé always more expensive? And actually, it's a really valid point. It is more expensive because of the red wine element. You have to remember where Champagne is in the northerly part of France. It's cool. And so you only get the vineyards that are able to grow Pinot Noir grapes and get them to the level of ripeness you need for red wine in very, very few vineyards. So in this case, there's three main vineyards that are being used. Some are in Ambonnay, some are in Bouzy, and some are in Cumières. So all the Montagne de Reims. They'll be all on those mid-slope, and they'll be, low yield. So they'll be dropping some of the crop to get really good ripeness in some of the grapes. And that's really one of the main reasons that rosé is always more expensive than, let's say, its Blanc equivalent. Can you believe I haven't tasted this yet? It's a rather lovely colour, and it's this kind of, if you hold it up to the light, I don't know how well you can see this. It's this there's a rather glorious lightness in that. Oh, and there's beautiful fruit. I did taste this. I was lucky to taste this a few weeks ago, and that's what I remembered, is that beautiful red. It's things like red currants and strawberries, and like watermelon. There's some really lovely fruits in this. Wow. And it follows through on the palate. There's a rather lovely texture. Now, this is a relatively young wine. If you consider 2018, so the wine was blended in the spring of 2019, bottled in spring 19, disgorged July 23, so 4 years. And actually, that seems like a rather nice balance in this. There's the texture of the lees, there's the lees texture in there, which does that broadening effect. There's some other flavours in here, and the dosage is lost. You don't really see it. It is, if you want the number, I'm pretty sure it's 8 grams. It's rather lovely fruit, and it is in that young, vibrant stage. This is one of those champagnes, I think you can enjoy it now. I was lucky to taste the 2002 of this rosé quite recently, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So rosés do age particularly well, and the 2002 basically goes through this transition where you get just a lovely amount of dried fruit characteristics start to really come out. So all those red currants, raspberries, strawberries, wild strawberries in this one, they tend to go to the dried versions of them, and they're really rather gorgeous. So here we are. Happy Friday, everyone. And I should say, happy 175th anniversary Pol Roger on what is a marvellous new release of Pol Roger Rosé. Cheers, everybody.